As a member-owned electric cooperative, Seco Energy is guided by governing documents that help ensure we operate in the best interest of our members. Seco Energy's Articles of Incorporation were originally filed in 1938. Since then, much has changed, from technology and regulations to the communities we serve. To ensure these documents remain clear, current, and aligned with how Seco Energy operates today, the Board of Trustees is recommending a restatement of the Articles of Incorporation. The proposed updates modernize language and improve clarity. They do not change Seco Energy's cooperative structure, member ownership, or commitment to serving our members. Because Seco Energy is your cooperative, these updates require approval by the membership. Members will have the opportunity to vote on the restated Articles of Incorporation prior to the annual meeting on March 26, 2026. To learn more and review the proposed changes, visit secoenergy.com or scan the QR code on your screen.
Hi, I'm Beth, and I'm proud to be the Fleet and Facilities Administrative Assistant here at Seco Energy. My role may be behind the scenes, but it plays a vital part in keeping Seco running smoothly every day. I support the teams that manage our fleet of vehicles and maintain our facilities, two areas that are absolutely essential to our field operations. Whether it's scheduling preventative maintenance for our trucks or coordinating building repairs, I make sure everything is safe, efficient, and reliable. Our crews can't respond quickly to outages or emergencies if their vehicles aren't ready or if the facilities they rely on aren't up to standard. That's where I come in. I handle a lot of the paperwork, vendor communication, budgeting support, and reporting that keeps these systems organized and on track. It's rewarding to know that even though I'm not always visible to the public, the work that I do directly impacts our ability to serve our members and our community. Every role at Seco matters, and I'm honored to help power the difference from behind the scenes. Thank you for watching, and thank you for recognizing the efforts of all the employees who work quietly but powerfully in the background.
Hi, I'm Lisa, and I work in purchasing and contracting at Seco Energy in Sumterville. I was born and raised in Iowa and moved to Sumter County about 40 years ago, which is how long I've been a Seco member. My husband and I celebrated 30 years of wedded bliss this year. My job is to make sure our teams have the supplies, materials, and services they need when they need them. That could be anything from securing transformers, large substation equipment, and lighting poles for the field crews, to sourcing computer equipment for our member service reps. By managing costs, timelines, and quality, I help ensure our employees are equipped to serve members quickly and efficiently. That behind-the-scenes support helps minimize delays, keeps projects moving, and ultimately improves the member experience. Even though I'm not on the front lines, I know my work helps make those positive interactions possible.
I know everyone is excited for an update to our long-awaited projects here in Sumterville, Ocala, and Groveland. I'm happy to report that we have successfully submitted building permits in all required areas, which is a major milestone for this project. Our designs for all three sites are complete, and they reflect modern, efficient campuses that will improve collaboration, streamline operations, and better support all of our teams, regardless of where they work. This investment ensures that we have the space, equipment, and infrastructure needed to serve our growing membership well into the future. Let's start in Sumterville with our headquarters campus and operations center. This campus will serve as a central hub, bringing together our headquarters and an expanded yard that includes material storage. You can see there's more than adequate space for future growth, as well as green areas, trees, and parking. In addition, we're making strong progress in Ocala and Groveland, where new operating centers are planned. These new facilities will strategically position our crews closer to the communities we serve, allowing for faster response times, improved storm restoration efforts, and greater operational efficiency. In both Ocala and Groveland, we are planning to save as many mature trees as possible and remain true to the current area landscaping. While we're still in the final stages, each of these milestones brings us one step closer to construction. These projects represent more than buildings. They represent our commitment to reliability, growth, and supporting our employees with safe, functional, and modern work environments. We'll continue to share updates as we move into the next phases, and we're excited about what these new facilities will mean for our team and our members.
In 1938, a small rural electric cooperative named Sumter Electric Cooperative was born. Electric cooperatives owned by members they serve were a powerful idea that brought lights, opportunity, and progress to rural communities. Founded with a simple but meaningful mission, Sumter Electric Cooperative, now doing business as Seco Energy, set out to deliver reliable electric power to the farmers and rural homesteaders of Central Florida. From our humble beginnings, Seco Energy has grown alongside the communities we serve. As Central Florida evolved, so did we, adapting to changing needs with a continued focus on service, reliability, and innovation. Over time, our electric infrastructure transformed. New technology, smarter systems, and stronger connections helped power homes, businesses, and communities one member at a time. Today, Seco Energy stands on the shoulders of pioneers who built this cooperative. While our systems and services have changed, our purpose has remained constant, providing safe, reliable, and affordable power to our members. As a member-owned cooperative, we are guided by principles that put people first. Our mission, vision, and values shape every decision we make, ensuring we continue to serve our members and strengthening our communities we call home. For generations, Seco Energy has been more than an electric provider. We are a trusted partner, a community supporter, and a cooperative built on service. Seco Energy, powering tomorrow together.
As a member-owned electric cooperative, Seco Energy is guided by governing documents that help ensure we operate in the best interest of our members. Seco Energy's Articles of Incorporation were originally filed in 1938. Since then, much has changed, from technology and regulations to the communities we serve. To ensure these documents remain clear, current, and aligned with how Seco Energy operates today, the Board of Trustees is recommending a restatement of the Articles of Incorporation. The proposed updates modernize language and improve clarity. They do not change Seco Energy's cooperative structure, member ownership, or commitment to serving our members. Because Seco Energy is your cooperative, these updates require approval by the membership. Members will have the opportunity to vote on the restated Articles of Incorporation prior to the annual meeting on March 26, 2026. To learn more and review the proposed changes, visit secoenergy.com or scan the QR code on your screen.
Hi, I'm Beth, and I'm proud to be the Fleet and Facilities Administrative Assistant here at Seco Energy. My role may be behind the scenes, but it plays a vital part in keeping Seco running smoothly every day. I support the teams that manage our fleet of vehicles and maintain our facilities, two areas that are absolutely essential to our field operations. Whether it's scheduling preventative maintenance for our trucks or coordinating building repairs, I make sure everything is safe, efficient, and reliable. Our crews can't respond quickly to outages or emergencies if their vehicles aren't ready or if the facilities they rely on aren't up to standard. That's where I come in. I handle a lot of the paperwork, vendor communication, budgeting support, and reporting that keeps these systems organized and on track. It's rewarding to know that even though I'm not always visible to the public, the work that I do directly impacts our ability to serve our members and our community. Every role at Seco matters, and I'm honored to help power the difference from behind the scenes. Thank you for watching, and thank you for recognizing the efforts of all the employees who work quietly but powerfully in the background.
Hi, I'm Lisa, and I work in purchasing and contracting at Seco Energy in Sumterville. I was born and raised in Iowa and moved to Sumter County about 40 years ago, which is how long I've been a Seco member. My husband and I celebrated 30 years of wedded bliss this year. My job is to make sure our teams have the supplies, materials, and services they need when they need them. That could be anything from securing transformers, large substation equipment, and lighting poles for the field crews, to sourcing computer equipment for our member service reps. By managing costs, timelines, and quality, I help ensure our employees are equipped to serve members quickly and efficiently. That behind-the-scenes support helps minimize delays, keeps projects moving, and ultimately improves the member experience. Even though I'm not on the front lines, I know my work helps make those positive interactions possible.
I know everyone is excited for an update to our long-awaited projects here in Sumterville, Ocala, and Groveland. I'm happy to report that we have successfully submitted building permits in all required areas, which is a major milestone for this project. Our designs for all 3 sites are complete, and they reflect modern, efficient campuses that will improve collaboration, streamline operations, and better support all of our teams, regardless of where they work. This investment ensures that we have the space, equipment, and infrastructure needed to serve our growing membership well into the future. Let's start in Sumterville with our headquarters campus and operations center. This campus will serve as a central hub, bringing together our headquarters and an expanded yard that includes material storage. You can see there's more than adequate space for future growth, as well as green areas, trees, and parking. In addition, we're making strong progress in Ocala and Groveland, where new operating centers are planned. These new facilities will strategically position our crews closer to the communities we serve, allowing for faster response times, improved storm restoration efforts, and greater operational efficiency. In both Ocala and Groveland, we are planning to save as many mature trees as possible and remain true to the current area landscaping. While we're still in the final stages, each of these milestones brings us one step closer to construction. These projects represent more than buildings. They represent our commitment to reliability, growth, and supporting our employees with safe, functional, and modern work environments. We'll continue to share updates as we move into the next phases, and we're excited about what these new facilities will mean for our team and our members.
In 1938, a small rural electric cooperative named Sumter Electric Cooperative was born. Electric cooperatives owned by members they serve were a powerful idea that brought lights, opportunity, and progress to rural communities. Founded with a simple but meaningful mission, Sumter Electric Cooperative, now doing business as Seco Energy, set out to deliver reliable electric power to the farmers and rural homesteaders of Central Florida. From our humble beginnings, Seco Energy has grown alongside the communities we serve. As Central Florida evolved, so did we, adapting to changing needs with a continued focus on service, reliability, and innovation. Over time, our electric infrastructure transformed. New technology, smarter systems, and stronger connections helped power homes, businesses, and communities one member at a time. Today, Seco Energy stands on the shoulders of pioneers who built this cooperative. While our systems and services have changed, our purpose has remained constant, providing safe, reliable, and affordable power to our members. As a member-owned cooperative, we are guided by principles that put people first. Our mission, vision, and values shape every decision we make, ensuring we continue to serve our members and strengthening our communities we call home. For generations, Seco Energy has been more than an electric provider. We are a trusted partner, a community supporter, and a cooperative built on service. Seco Energy, powering tomorrow together.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Seco Energy's 2026 annual meeting. I'm Morgan Hatfield, your Board of Trustees Vice President and District 9 trustee. As required by Seco Energy's bylaws and Florida state statute, we gather each year for our annual meeting to ensure our cooperative remains transparent, responsive, and engaged with you. Seco Energy's annual meeting gives you, the members of Seco, the opportunity to vote and have your voices heard in the cooperative's decisions. Also hear key updates on Seco Energy's progress and the exciting news we have for the future, and the chance to engage with our CEO and executive leadership team live. And now, without further delay, I'm calling the annual meeting to order. I am officially closing our voting platform so the annual meeting business votes can be tallied. I am happy to report that we have achieved a quorum. I know many of you are excited for the prize drawing tonight. Be sure to stay tuned until the end of the webcast for the announcement of our prize winners. Jerry Helms, Seco Energy's Executive Administrator to the CEO and Board, has been appointed to serve as our recording secretary for the annual meeting today. Before we move forward, will you please join me in prayer as I lead the opening invocation? Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to meet and conduct the business of our cooperative. We are especially mindful of how blessed we are to live, work, and raise our families here. Help us to always remember that and to strive to be neighbors who unite and not divide. We are thankful to have the positive and uniting influence of Seco Energy in the communities we serve. Please give our co-op leaders wisdom and guidance as we continue to help our communities. We pray for the safety of our employees, many who risk their lives every day to bring us power. And we pray that all employees go home safely to their families each and every day. Lord, give us knowledge today and every day to serve our members with honesty and integrity. Help us to help others and make their lives better. We ask all of that in your name. Amen. Now, if you would please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next on tonight's agenda, we'll proceed with the certification of the annual meeting notice by our Board Secretary, Treasurer, and District 2 Trustee, Joyce Anderson. Thank you.
Welcome, Seco Energy members. My name is Joyce Anderson, your recently re-elected District 2 Trustee and Board Secretary Treasurer. My district covers Sumter County areas that include Sumterville, Middleton, Bushnell, and Webster. It's truly an honor to serve as Seco Energy's Board Trustee, Secretary, Treasurer. I've been a member of Seco Energy since 2017, and I've had the privilege of serving on the board since 2020. In my role as Secretary Treasurer of Sumter Electrical Cooperative, now doing business as Seco Energy, I'm responsible for ensuring all required governance actions are carried out in accordance with Seco Energy bylaws. One of those responsibilities is confirming annual meeting notifications as they are delivered to our members as outlined in our cooperative bylaws. Therefore, I, Joyce Anderson, duly certify that all bylaw requirements were met. Seco Energy mailed or electronically delivered the notice announcing the 2026 annual meeting of the membership. The notice was delivered to each Seco Energy member of record between February 10th and March 11th, 2026. This membership meeting is being held today, Thursday, March 26, 2026. With the certification now complete, my fellow trustees will continue their introductions. Thank you for joining us this evening.
Good evening. I'm Scott Boyette, Seco Energy's District 1 trustee from South Lake County. I've served on the Board of Trustees since 2013 and have been a Seco member since 2004.
Good evening. I'm James Lamont, your recently re-elected District 4 trustee in Southwest Marion County. I've served on the Board of Trustees since 2024, and I've been a Seco Energy member since 2018.
Good evening. I am Shannon Wright, Seco Energy's District 5 trustee. My area district includes both Sumter and Citrus counties. I've served on the Board of Trustees since 2022 and have been a member of Seco Energy since 2014.
Good evening. I'm Mike Muffett, your recently re-elected District 6 trustee. My district includes portions of Marion and Sumter counties. I have served on the Board of Trustees since 2020 and have been a member of Seco Energy since 1984.
Good evening. I am Joseph Kuziak, Seco Energy's District 7 trustee. District 7 includes northwest Marion County and a small area in Levy County. I have served on SECO's Board of Trustees since 2018 and have been a member of SECO Energy since 2002.
Good evening. I'm Marty Proctor, SECO's District 8 trustee. District 8 covers portions of Groveland, Mineola, Howey, and Tavares in Lake County. I was originally elected to serve on SECO Energy's Board of Trustees in 2024, and I've been a proud member of SECO Energy since 1989. It is my privilege at this time to turn over the annual meeting to SECO Energy's CEO, Curtis Wynn, and Board President, Gerald Anderson. Thank you very much.
Welcome, SECO Energy members, to our 2026 annual meeting, and welcome to a very special edition of Power Chat in the Electric Lounge. I'm Curtis Wynn, your Chief Executive Officer, and tonight we're bringing the annual meeting's combined President's and CEO reports to you in a format that reflects who we are: transparent, conversational, and focused on you. We're bringing you our reports podcast style. Now, if you've listened to our podcast since we launched it last October, you know that we believe in honest conversations about what powers our cooperative, from reliability and rates to storms and future planning. And tonight, we're bringing you our reports by way of an honest and open conversation between who I often describe as the hardest working cooperative board president in the nation, and yours truly. Joining me here in the Electric Lounge is our board president and District 3 trustee, Gerald Anderson. President Anderson, welcome to Power Chat in the Electric Lounge.
Thank you, Curtis, and thanks for those nice words. I've been looking forward to this format now for a while. I think that this is great that you and I can sit down, and I can put some tough questions to you that members I think might be enjoyed. So thank you for my being here.
We're happy to have you, and whether you're watching from your living room, your kitchen table, or maybe from your back porch, thank you for tuning in. Now, this meeting belongs to you. You're not just customers of SECO Energy, you're member owners, and that distinction makes all the difference. Tonight is about connection. It's about transparency. It's about making sure you understand the state of your cooperative. And before we dive in, let's remind everyone, our member engagement panel is live. If you have questions or a question, you can call, you can email, or send a private message on Facebook using the contact information on your screen. If your question is specific to your account, our team will follow up with you personally as soon as possible with answers to those questions. And one more reason to stay tuned, we'll wrap up tonight with our prize drawing. 100 prizes. 5 $1,000 cash awards and bill credits up to $500. Now that's one of my most favorite parts of this tradition of annual meeting here at SECO. So again, welcome President Anderson. I want to just ask you a few questions here to start off with. And that first one is really, what makes SECO Energy different from the other utilities here in the region and nationwide, or co-ops different from other utilities? And from your perspective or from a board's perspective, what does that really mean in real terms?
Well, a minute ago, you almost said it all. I mean, member-owned. And when you dive into a cooperative, you start to see very quickly that every cooperative is different. Right. SECO is different from every other cooperative in Florida. But being responsible to our members, every board members, which we have 9, are committed to their members. We not only want to provide safe, reliable electricity to everybody, but we also want to be in the forefront of taking care of our members. We all feel the same way, that a member should be able to pick up the phone, call us, and ask us questions, and you'll get an answer back. And if that trustee can't answer it, we'll have somebody who will get back to you. They're very important to us, and that's part of our member satisfaction.
Yes, sir. You know, being a board member is a very tough job. I've watched you operate, and I've watched our other board members operate. It's not a frivolous responsibility. And 7 years ago, you decided that you would make that decision to run to be on SECO's board. Why did you choose to do that? Why did you choose to serve on a board like SECO?
I'm not sure it was my decision. It might have been my wife Jane's. Anyway, when we moved from Pennsylvania to Florida, my father-in-law and mother-in-law had lived here for over 20 years. And my father-in-law said, "You want to make sure you're a SECO member." So we took that to heart, and that's what we did. And we started attending the SECO all meetings. And in one of those meetings, they made an announcement that the trustee from my district had resigned. So my wife, my mother-in-law, my father-in-law, and my sister-in-law happened to be, they all turned around to me and said, "You're going to run for that, right?" Not much choice, because in Pennsylvania, I was elected official and I came out of the business that did manufacturing and so forth for the power industry. So it seemed like a good fit. So I said, why not? So I got more information. I ran for office and got elected.
Wow. Well, you've served well. You served 7 years, and over the last 3 years, you've served as SECO Energy Board President. And what I've learned about you is that you are a goal-oriented person, and you like to set goals and you make sure those goals are accomplished. So what are some of your greatest accomplishments since you have been not only in a leadership role, but also just serving as a board member?
I think my first one would have to be that the Board of Trustees has one employee, and that's you. And when our former CEO decided to retire after being here for 41 years, I believe, that was monumental on who's going to replace you, replace him rather, because we look at the CEO as being the face of SECO Energy. So I believe I was very instrumental in bringing you on board. When I first looked at your resume coming from being the president of the NRECA, even though you came from a smaller co-op and we were a growing co-op, I didn't really think that would be a problem. I believed that we had to move into the future, and I thought you were the man to do it. And I'll go right here and say you've proven yourself over and above my expectations. After that, I have to say that, and you're going to laugh, that AMI, from almost the moment I walked into the boardroom, I had a problem that we were using old technology in all our meters when we're adding probably back then 650 members a month. And I said, why are we doing this? I brought it up in the boardroom and it was like taboo because the board had a bad experience with it some 7 years prior to that. But anyway, I stuck with it. Here we are. We now have that done, and I'm sure you're going to speak to AMI a little bit later. So I'll let you have that one. Member engagement was always important to me. And forming the SECO Foundation was a big one. I think that that's doing well. I'm very proud of that fact. I realized that a lot of co-ops were doing a youth leadership program, and we weren't doing that.
Yep.
You and I talked about it.
That's right. That's
and
right.
We started that. And that's another phenomenal program that's taking place for our young people. When I took over, I noticed that in the boardroom that there wasn't really a crowd of members getting together and talking. They felt a little stiff in the room. So we worked hard to bring that where we can actually have a few laughs once in a while, get to know each other and do things. And it's come a long way, and I think that you've done a lot with your leadership team, but my responsibility was make sure all those board members were well informed, felt comfortable speaking in the meeting, didn't matter what it was, bring it out, you have your opportunity to speak and tell us what's on your mind. So the board culture turned out to me to be another big thing that I really enjoyed doing. I have to give kudos to our board members because they've helped make it easy for me with education. People don't realize that what our board members go through for education. There's 9 of us, and all 9 trustees have the gold representation from NRECA, which probably in the United States, out of the 700 and somewhat co-ops, there's only a handful that have that, maybe 10 last time I heard, maybe a little bit more.
That's right.
So that's a big accomplishment, and I always have encouraged our members to really take the education and go through it as quickly as they can, because our co-op runs much better when they're informed and they're educated. And I think when you took over and you started your knowledge exchange programs at all our meetings, big advantage. I think that from when I first came on, I could see such a big difference in those 7 years of something to how the board interacts and how open we are to discussion and how they're all much more informed.
Well, it shows up. You know, we have noticed recently that our meetings are getting a little bit longer, but that's a good thing. I think the engagement is there. The board is asking real good questions, and they're making sure that they understand. We bring a lot of technical things to the board, and I think that in your approach, your style, it has really helped the staff and me personally in terms of how we communicate and make sure that we're not asking you to make quick decisions. We're asking you to make informed decisions about major things that we're probably going to talk about today. So
I'm not sure about the staff. I think the thing they liked the best when I walked in one day and said we're on the 90-degree rule. And they all said,
let's
what is
talk
that?
about that 90-degree rule. I love that.
I said that means no more ties.
Yeah.
So loosen up.
Yeah, and that has helped us a lot. I don't have any other questions for you. Do you have any questions for me? Maybe one or two, or?
I probably have more than one or two.
I bet you do.
So we'll turn the tables and ask you a few questions. You're the face of Seco Energy.
Right.
And I get a lot of questions about it, and I'm very proud of that. So tell our members what a typical day is like as being CEO of one of the largest growing cooperatives in the United States.
Yeah, well, I'll first say to the members that there are no 2 days that are the same. Every Monday when I come into the office, one of the first meetings I have is with my executive assistant, Jerry Helms. And we go over my calendar for the week and even far out into the month. And I guess essentially I do about whatever Jerry Helms tells me I should do.
It makes two of us.
Yeah, I know. But on a very serious note, a lot of time that I spend is with my 7 direct reports, who we call the executive leadership team. If you were to just take all of them combined and the ones that I do, and you all know this as a board, we probably are managing anywhere from 50 to 70 different initiatives. So I meet with them either collectively as a group or one-on-one often to make sure we're staying on track with those different initiatives. So a lot of meeting time. All of our calendars are full. And then I'll just transition it to both external responsibilities that I have. We have several major organizations that we are a part of, and you're also a part of those. I'll start with the biggest one, and that's Seminole Electric.
Before you go too far, let me ask you a question.
Oh, yeah, sure.
What happens in that day when I throw a sledgehammer in the middle of it?
Well, I was going to get to that later. Give me about 2 minutes, and I'll let you know. Well, since you mentioned it, I'll go ahead and tell you that another big part of my day is I categorize it as staying in touch with the membership. Now, we talk about the seriousness of being a board member, and to me, as your CEO, you are the voice of the membership. All 9 of you are the voice of the membership. And several of the things that are concerns or things that the other 8 board members have, they funnel them through you as the president. So you and I talk very often. I think I have often thought in my mind that you and I kind of serve like business partners on a very serious note. And you're keeping me connected with the membership as a board member. That's a huge responsibility because as neighbors of our members, they let the board members know what's on their mind. That's the beauty of an electric cooperative. So yeah, you do throw some sledgehammers in my day quite often, and if you don't call me, I kind of get concerned. So, but that is a big part of it. But getting back to some of those other major touch points that as your CEO, I have to be connected with Seminole. That's the company, the co-op that provides generation and transmission of electric power for Seco to be able to serve our members. That is a big organization, and it takes up a lot. It's a big responsibility for you, Trustee Boyette, and me, who serve on their board, to make sure we're connected and we're governing, being a part of that governance process with Seminole. The other 2 major organizations that we have to stay in contact with are our trade associations. Cooperatives are born in politics and will die in politics. And we have to stay connected with what's happening in Tallahassee and in Washington, D.C. So we have the National Rural Electric Cooperative Association, and we have FECA, Florida's Electric Cooperative Association, who keep up with all the things that are happening on the state and federal level with legislation that could impact us. So we have to stay on top of that. And then more locally, getting involved and being involved in the community. I spend a lot of time with community organizations. I'm a trustee or a board member on one of the local chambers and economic development organizations. So that takes up time. But I think the touch point with the members and the dialogue that you and I have is among the top things that I believe is a part of what I should be doing as your CEO. I hope that kind of helps explain it. It's all across the board, but that's just the way it is. There are a lot of touch points.
Let's go back to Seminole for a minute.
Okay.
Since a lot of members ask me about Seminole, since 70 cents of every dollar goes to Seminole to generate our power, it's difficult for you and trustees to wear two hats.
Right.
You're going to Seminole, and we have to look out for what Seminole is doing. We have to also keep our interests at heart.
That's right.
And how do you separate that?
And that's a very you have to really thread the needle, because that is so true, because we have to view Seminole as a part of one of our assets, because we do have a major part, probably about 25% or more of the power that they generate comes to SECO. So we have to make sure that organization is healthy while paying close attention to what our members need. And that is a dual effort we have to do. But when we're in that boardroom, we're in Seminole's boardroom, and we're trying to make sure that we establish policies and governance that protects them. In the back of our minds, we're always thinking about what's going to be good for our members. Because if there's no member, there's no SECO, and then if there's no SECO, there's no G&T. So it's a dual effort that we have to perform in that effort, in that role.
And thank you for that, because I think it is important for our members to understand that commitment with Seminole. So let's turn the tables and get away from you and I a little bit and start talking about some nuts and bolts, all right? How would you describe the state of SECO Energy today?
Strong. And I'll break it down into three areas. Fortunately, it's not about what I think. It's about what the members think. And they have, we gauge that by our customer satisfaction ratings. We call it the ACSI score. It's a tool that we use to measure satisfaction. And we have, over the years, been enjoying and appreciating ratings anywhere from 88 to 91% satisfaction ratings, which is among the top 7 in the nation. So that satisfaction comes from our ability to provide reasonable rates and to keep the lights on. And I think that part we're doing a pretty good job, and the members are appreciative of that. The second area is what do the banks say? Because we are a capital-intensive organization, and we rely heavily on capital funding from either the USDA Rural Utility Services or CoBank or CFC, our two private lending organizations. And we have covenants that we have to make sure we maintain to be a good credit risk. And those are acceptable and strong according to those organizations. So even with all of the growth that we're having, we have been able to maintain strong financial stability as an organization. And the last one that I think makes us strong is that we have a very strong workforce, a very knowledgeable workforce, a very diverse workforce that represents the membership well, that understands the role, that is tied in and locked in with the strategy that we've established. So those are the three things that I look at when I try to determine the state of the cooperative, and I think our members should look at those as well. How do we serve them? How financially strong are we? And do we have the people who can get the job done?
Let's talk a little bit about finances and oversight. You know, rates are very important. But how does being a nonprofit cooperative shape your financial decisions?
Yeah, so major expenditures. So at the end of the day, we want to make sure we bring in more revenue than we spend. And going back to Seminole and the importance of Seminole, let's just start there. That's our generation transmission cooperative. You said it earlier, we spend 70 cents out of every dollar with them. So we've put programs in place. I'll use one example, the Smart Connect program. That is a program that requires member engagement so that we can do everything we can to lower that cost of power by decreasing the demand, avoiding the situation where we have to go out and purchase very expensive power to serve our members, to keep that cost down. So that's one area that we use to help maintain reasonable rates. The other in that same category with Seminole is something called DERMS, Distributed Energy Resource Management Systems. And that's when we're using in our operations tools that can help us, again, keep that demand for power as low as possible so that we pay as little as we have to keep power available for our members. So that's one area. The other area that I think we have to deal with in terms of managing costs is to make investments versus spending money. There is a difference. Now, you mentioned AMI. That was you championed that. And I think if I had to guess, one of the reasons you championed it because you just couldn't stomach SECO continuing to put 13,000 up to 12,000 new outdated technology meters onto our system.
That's my next question.
Every year. So I'm going to reserve that, but that was an investment that helped us reduce our expenditures.
Yes.
But when it's all said and done, the cooperative difference goes back to when we are able to spend less than we bring in from our rates, we give it back. Capital credits. Let's look at that. The last 10 years, over $45 million that the board has approved that we pay back to our members in capital credits. So when we think about it, that's how we look at it from, with those investments we make, we're not trying to make investments that will make stockholders rich. We're trying to bring value for our members and make sure we keep rates as affordable as possible. That's how I look at it from a cooperative perspective, and that's the cooperative difference.
Well, one of the most difficult things, I think, for members to understand, and even our trustees, are capital credits. Spend a lot of time educating people on this, but to me, that's one of the backbones of our organization that makes a co-op so much different. And we always have to make sure we're doing the right thing that we can afford to provide those capital credits.
Right.
So now I'll turn back to my favorite subject, AMI. We've already talked a little bit about it. When I first started thinking about it, I knew we had to do it, but I knew it would bring benefits, but I never realized how much benefit we get out of that. As technology evolved and changed, it became more and more obvious.
Right.
And you just mentioned one with our DERMS programs.
Right.
So why don't you expand a little bit to our membership and tell them that and fill in where we are in the project now.
Right. Well, where we are is just a few days ago, we celebrated the substantial completion of the project. It's completed 6 months early. We set a goal to change out all 260-something thousand meters over a 3-year period. Our team has performed, again, as I often get to witness, well beyond my expectations. So we have completed the project in terms of installation. Now, what does that mean? That means that no more trucks are rolling to go out and get a single reading every month. And what that has converted to is no trucks rolling, but we're getting a reading almost every 30 minutes. Now, that creates the opportunity to do a lot. It's helping us with monitoring where there may be issues on the system. It's helping us be more efficient about how we restore outages, how we detect outages, or predict outages that might be coming. It's allowing us to be smarter, and it's transitioning or translating that smartness to our members. The other, I gave you one name earlier, so I'll give you another one. You are the Smart Hub expert of all of the members. Let's talk about Smart Hub for a minute. I know that's with AMI comes Smart Hub, and that's a tool that we've made available that was always available to our members, but now there is so much stuff within Smart Hub that members can do to be smarter about their utilization of power. It gives predictions at the middle of the month what your bill is going to be. It lets you monitor your meter readings and your consumption almost on an hourly basis to see where you are. It has so much power that we have put in the hands of our members to give them the control that most members want. They want to be able to control and understand and monitor their consumption of the product that we provide them. So that is a huge benefit of AMI. But the team is not satisfied with that. They're moving it over into some of the other tools that we have, like our supervisory control and acquisition data system, so that we can monitor things on the system. As I mentioned earlier, to predict outages. We're detecting theft. Before, if you didn't physically see someone who was tampering with our meter, there was no way to know it. Now, the data is so great coming through AMI that if that abnormality comes through, we've got people watching that. So we're finding where people who once were able to steal current, they can't do that anymore. The AMI system is giving us all kinds of things. I could go on, but first just say thank you for your support to get this going. You were really supportive when I got here to let's get this thing going. That was your specific question, was what are we waiting on? And we have, the team has really stepped up and gotten us to a good place with that.
Well, back then we were just kind of calculating line loss.
Right.
Now with these new systems, it's getting better and better.
Absolutely.
I want to encourage all our members to make sure you go on Smart Hub, fill out the profile for your home, and then you'll be able to see where you're using electricity.
Right.
It's a phenomenal tool.
Right.
One of many that we're going to have.
Yep.
Well, this year we didn't have a storm in Florida.
Okay.
So past storms, what have we learned, and what are we doing different?
Yeah.
That when that dreaded hurricane comes along.
Yeah. You know, really it starts with preparation, President Anderson. Our team is constantly looking for ways to make our system more resilient to storms, because we are, like it or not, in Central Florida, we're prone for storms. So hardening the system, making sure we take every opportunity to keep the vegetation away from the lines, so that when those strong winds blow, that they're not short-circuiting the system. We're making efforts to upgrade our substations to make sure that they're more resilient. We're putting devices on the lines and on the circuits to be able to reduce the number of members who are out in the event that we do have an outage. So preparation, it starts with preparation before the storm. But during the storm, what I'm really proud of is the way that we have set up a situation so that every person's job description for day-to-day operation goes out the window. Every person has a storm job description, which means that if you're vice president of I'll pick on April Brown, she's vice president of human resources. When the storm hits, that goes out the window. She becomes the manager of our resources for foreign crews who come in, whether we need clothing for them to get laundried, whether we need a place for them to stay, whether we need to provide them meals. All of a sudden, that's her new job description.
And you're building a small city.
And we're building a small city. Hurricane Milton taught us that these storm centers where we have to house people right here on the property is the way to go. We can't depend on hotels, and the logistics around that just don't work as well. So storm centers where we house people is very important. So we have a good process. I give Ben Dawson a lot of credit, our chief operating officer. He's really organized how we assign duties to everybody, and they know what those duties are days before the storm comes. when we are signaled that a hurricane is coming, we start preparing then. We bring in the foreign crews. We pre-stage those folks so that when after the storm blows away, we're ready to get on the job and get the power restored. So a lot of that's happening once the storm hits. But after the storm, we look at what did we do good? What didn't we do so good? And we do after action reviews so that the next storm we are even better prepared to manage the restoration process. So before, during, and after, we're looking at ways that we can get better.
Well, one of the ways I think that we're very good at this is we're able to get messages to our members.
Right.
With the new meters, when their power's out, you know it immediately.
Right.
And they get notification if they sign up, either on their phone or email or whatever.
Right.
So also I'd encourage people to make sure they sign up to get those messages.
It's very important because what we've learned is that one of the most important things to members is they understand the power's out, but give them some prediction of when you're going to get the power back on. They want to be able to control their lives. They don't want to be sitting expecting it to come on today, and we know full in advance that it's not going to come on 2 days later. Let's tell them that so that they can make decisions on how to deal with it.
Speaking of interruptions, I think Seco's interruption data is probably one of the best in the country.
We are very proud of our outage interruption data. You know, there's close to 8,700 hours in a year. And on average, now some more, some less, on average, our members are out 1 hour during a year.
That's phenomenal.
Out of the miles and thousands of miles of line we have. And the other part of it is when they are out, that duration is typically, this year, the duration number came in less than an hour. So once a year on average, less than an hour on average, and we're really working hard to even improve that to get it better. With the new innovation and the investments that we're making, we really hope we can even get that better.
Phenomenal job, I think. Seco is one of the fastest growing co-ops in the nation. Matter of fact, we're number 7 in size, 3rd in Florida. A lot of challenges. Other than me, what keeps you awake at night?
You know, there are things that there are challenges that you can manage, and we have a very well thought out strategy to manage those. But what keeps me awake at night are the things that I cannot control. One, getting back to rates, the conversation we had about rates, is the volatility that we deal with through Seminole of fuel prices. Now, sad to say, we have conflict in the Middle East. We don't know what that's going to have, what that's going to do with oil prices, how that's going to impact fuel prices as it relates to the fuel that it takes to generate power. What can you and I do about that? Absolutely nothing. And that could have a drastic impact on what our members pay for their electricity. So those are the kinds of things. What happens with supply chain? You know, a few years ago, we were in a pandemic. The manufacturing process almost came to a screeching halt. At that time, the big challenge was how do we get the material supplies in here to keep building these services that we continue to have a demand for. We had very little control of that. Our team managed it very well, but it was very little control. Another area is, as I mentioned earlier, what happens with legislation? That we have to stay on top of that to make sure that our legislators understand how, when laws are made, how they impact our members. So you and I have been going to Washington for the last several years, since I've been here, to make sure we communicate with our national or federal legislators, make sure we keep our members' interests at the front of on top of their agenda to make sure that those are covered. Storms, we have no control. So those are the kinds of things that tend to keep me awake at night. Is not so much what we can control, but the things that come out to get us that we really have no control over.
Things that trouble me is when we go to Washington, D.C., and we talk to our legislators, and we try to convince them when we have these storms how long it takes for FEMA
Yes.
to reimburse us and the steps you have to go through. And we made some gains in that. But I think it's important for our members to know that in the meantime, we're not raising rates when we have these storms like some of the public utilities do. We actually borrow money.
That's right.
And we float that money until we get paid by FEMA, which could be 4 or 5 years sometimes.
That's right.
So the big thing that we could do is try to get FEMA more on board.
Right.
I believe they have the funds, they just have to disperse it. And the way they do it just kind of makes you crazy.
It does make you crazy. And just the fact that, getting into that just a little bit, but that they have rules that don't really help improve. When we go through a storm, we always look for ways to get better. One of the requirements of FEMA was that if you get reimbursed for a line that's torn down, you're prohibited from moving that line underground so that it doesn't happen again. They would reject that reimbursement. That's just how frustrating that can get. And I won't get into it because it's a touchy subject, but you bring out a very good point. And right now, that's a good example of legislation that we're working with our federal legislators to help improve that whole process. And so I think those are the kinds of things that we have to stay on top of.
I don't know how much time we have, but you mentioned certain things that just triggers my thought process. I mean, one of the things that you and your team have done too is when you see problem areas within our system, instead of doing the same old thing and going overhead, you started going underground.
Right.
That makes a major difference in vegetation management and so forth, and reliability goes way up.
Right.
So that was an initiative I know that you took, and I think I thank you for that.
You're welcome. I think it's just another example of investments versus expenditures.
Good point.
So if we make an investment that we could amortize over the next 40 years versus continuing to cut the right of way, continuing to cut trees back, which is very expensive, by the way, to make that investment where it makes sense and avoid that expenditure. I think those are the kinds of things that we always look for an opportunity to do.
Okay. I think we hear all the time that members are concerned with their power usage and are always looking for ways and asking us on how we can help them save. Can you elaborate on a few of those initiatives?
Yeah, I'll say to the members, be smart. And what I mean by that is not being facetious, is that we have Smart Hub that you have championed yourself. And I further encourage our members to look at that tool so that they can monitor their consumption and make adjustments during the month if they see that bill is going out of hand. Things can happen. You could have a bad water heater element or something, or something that's causing your electricity to go out. It would be a travesty, and it happens, for you not to detect that until you get a bill 30 days after it's happened, and it's continuing to happen. With Smart Hub, you can know immediately, hey, something's going on here. This thing's telling me that my reading is abnormal. So you can go ahead and address that at the point, because unfortunately, if it goes through the meter, it has to be paid for. The other smart piece that we have is the Smart Connect program that we've labeled to get the members engaged by enrolling their thermostats or their electric vehicle charging station or their battery system that they might have invested in to help us lower our costs through Semino. And when that happens, we are able to provide incentives to those members who participate in those programs. So those are big ways that members can help reduce their power consumption. The other are the things that we sometimes take for granted. Things around the house that we can do to reduce energy consumption, how we set our thermostat on a normal basis, making sure that we don't have inefficient lighting. There are some very efficient lighting that's out there now that can help reduce their energy consumption. But look at ways, we have it on our website, tips to help members save on their electric consumption. So those are three things that I think that, and not only think, I just encourage our members to really dive into and make sure that they take control of some of those things that cause the bill to get higher.
How about a tip?
I love tips.
When should our members run their electric dryers?
So the time of day that you use power matters. I think that's where we're going with that question. A very good question is, if you take a 24-hour period, and let's just use behavior to talk about this. Our behavior normally is that we wake up at 5, 6 in the morning and we start doing things in the house. And it causes the demand for electricity to go up. And then during the day it settles out, then in the afternoon it picks back up again. People getting off from work, starting to do things in the house. So if you're going to dry clothes, do it during those non-busy hours. We call it, at SECO, we call it off-peak. Late at night or during the middle of the day when there's not that huge demand for power. That helps SECO reduce its costs. It's just a behavioral thing. It doesn't stop you from drying the clothes. It just is a shift in when you do it. Those small things, if our members will do that, it is amazing how much it can help us reduce that 70 cents out of every dollar piece of our expenses. And we put programs in place to help incentivize and encourage our members to do that. It's engagement. We're all together in this. This is our members co-op. So we want to make sure that that chance for engagement is there, and we give opportunities to do that.
I think it's hard for our members to understand that we're what's called a winter peaking utility.
Right.
And our highest loads are actually in the wintertime.
Right.
As a matter of fact, I think during the last cold snap, I don't remember the date, but on that Monday morning, I think we hit the highest peak load in the history of SECO Energy.
Yes, we did.
So my point being is, when you're really looking to conserve energy, don't think it's just the summertime.
Right.
You can save and help us out if you really control those loads all year long.
Absolutely.
Many times, I'm kind of amazed at how astute our members actually are. And I'm starting to get more questions today related to data centers.
Yes.
The concern seems to be, are we getting any? Do we want them? Will my rates go up when one comes in?
Right.
And will it affect my reliability?
Right.
I think paramount, is reliability.
Right.
So why don't you address those issues for us?
I'm happy to do it. That is, and the members are very, they are very astute, and they have every right to ask that question, because when you listen to the media, when you listen to the news, that's the talk right now. But what we're doing at SECO is really no different than what we've always done in terms of investors, developers who want to come onto our system and cause us to invest more than we typically would with a member. We've always had what we call a contribution and aid of construction policy, where we don't allow newcomers onto our system to tax our existing members, the members who got us here. And with data centers, they do require huge, huge amounts of power, unbelievable amounts of power. We get inquiries, most of which have not been serious, because we consider a serious inquiry one in which that investor of a data center is going to cover the cost of us to start investigating their data load. If they don't hand our team a check, we don't consider it a serious inquiry, because we don't want our team spending hours and hours investigating what it would take to serve this load, and they're just fishing around, because that costs our members, starting with that. But just like we've done with developers, with contribution and aid, whatever that extra cost or expenditure that we have to spend to bring that data center online is going to be borne by that data center. And going back to reliability, the reality of all of this is that, contrary to what most data center conversations we've had, is that we can do this within just a matter of months. It is going to take years, 7 to 10 years in most cases, for us to bring up the capacity to serve a data center. So we would never go into a situation where we would put our quality of power, reliable power, at risk to serve one member. So while we have the obligation to serve, we're very cautious to make sure that that doesn't happen, and that we don't don't negate our strong reliability numbers that we've worked so hard to establish. So I say to our members that no matter what you hear in the media, your cooperative has established procedures and policies to make sure that we don't put our members' reliability and their cost at stake to serve one load.
I think that concludes my questions. Before we move on to you to wrap it up, I just want to take a minute and thank all our employees for the phenomenal job they do. When you see them out there working in the hot weather, cold weather, whatever it happens to be, it's amazing how quickly they keep the lights on. Not just the guys out there with the trucks, but the people behind them that support them and make it work. I'm always amazed. Thank you very much to all our employees.
President Anderson, I can't thank you enough for joining us today. I like this new format. It's one of the things that you and I, we sometimes do. You'll come up with an idea and you'll run it by me or vice versa, and both of us will say, I was just thinking about that. And that happened. That truly happened with this when we were getting ready to get prepared for our typical stand in front of the camera and monologue for a few minutes. But I'm so happy that we were able to dialogue today and really have a conversation. Hopefully this way of communicating is going to be helpful for the members to really get a better understanding of the state of the cooperative.
It is interesting how many times we're on the same page.
We are. Well, I appreciate
Makes it work.
Appreciate you being here. Look forward to many, many more of these as we move forward into the future. Thanks for your leadership.
Thank you. You're doing a great job.
Appreciate it. Before we close, let's look ahead. The board and staff think about today's challenges, and we also think 10, 20, even 30 years into the future. We're planning for continued population growth, increased electrification with things such as electric vehicles, smart home technology, renewable integration, battery storage, and managing future member expectations. Tomorrow's grid will look different from today's and yesterday's grid, but our mission remains the same: reliable, affordable, member-focused.
Good evening. I'm Jerry Helms, Executive Administrator for the CEO and Board of Trustees.
Good evening. I'm Ben Dawson, Chief Operating Officer for SECO Energy.
Hello, I am April Brown, Vice President of Human Resources and Corporate Services.
Good evening. I'm Tracy DeLemos, Vice President and General Counsel.
Hi, I'm Ralph Grant, Vice President, Engineering and Technical Services here at SECO.
Hi, I'm Kathy Judkins, VP of Communications, Community, and Member Experience.
Good evening. My name is Tulu Omotosho. I am the Vice President of Corporate Strategy, Innovation, and Technology at SECO.
Hi, I'm Wayne Pennington, Vice President of Reliability and Operations.
Hi, I'm Ann Reynolds, VP of Financial and Administrative Services.
Good evening. I'm SECO Energy's cooperative attorney, Scott Gherkin. SECO's bylaws allow the cooperative the flexibility to conduct electronic and regular mail voting on annual meeting business matters. This year, your Board of Trustees requested that 2 annual meeting business items be placed before the membership through the official 2026 annual meeting notice. The first business item was a proposed restatement of SECO's Articles of Incorporation that were first drafted way back in 1938. This restatement modernizes outdated language and aligns our governing documents with the way cooperatives operate today. The second item is the approval of the previous year's annual meeting minutes. As the cooperative's attorney, I am here today to certify those voting results. Voting was closed at 6 p.m. when the meeting was called to order by Vice President Hatfield. The votes counted were received prior to that 6 p.m. deadline and submitted in accordance with your bylaws and procedures, all adopted by the board. The member votes for approving the restatement of the Articles of Incorporation are as follows. 17,569, voted yes. 645 voted no, and 1,229 abstained. Total votes cast are 19,443. The restatement of the Articles of Incorporation is clearly approved by you, the membership. The member votes for approving the 2025 meeting minutes are as follows. 18,193 voted yes, 219 voted no, and 1,031 abstained. Total votes cast are 19,443. The 2025 annual meeting minutes are also clearly approved by you, the membership. Thank you to all who voted and played a part in the democratic process of your cooperative. All members who cast a ballot are entered in a drawing for one of 100 prizes that will be announced after the adjournment of the meeting and published on secoenergy.com. Now, moving on from old business to new business, this is a traditional part of the annual meeting agenda that takes us into the member engagement portion of the meeting for the live question and answer session. So I'll turn that part over to Mr. Wynn.
I'd like to thank you for taking time out of your evening to hear the combined President and CEO's report. And I really hope that you enjoyed the podcast format. So thank you all who voted on annual meeting business and participated in the cooperative's democratic process. Stay tuned for the prize drawing. All members who cast a ballot are automatically entered into a drawing for one of 100 prizes that will be announced after the adjournment of this meeting and published on secoenergy.com. Now, for the next item on our agenda, I'd like to transition, as Mr. Gherkin has said, from old business to new business and the live member engagement portion of the meeting. And we've received several questions from members during this year's district meetings that we believe will be of interest to a broader audience, along with a few additional questions submitted over the past couple of weeks. So Kathy, do you have some questions for me?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Now, the first question we have here is from Arlene Applegate from Eustis. And it says SECO has the option to produce 5% of the power we need. What is the source and how will it affect wildlife? And is it sustainable? And from District 6, does SECO have any plans for using solar energy to generate power for the membership? And I'll call on our Chief Operating Officer, Ben Dawson, to cover that question. Ben?
Thank you, Mr. Wynn. Good evening, members. Yes, we do have a 5% option that is provided to us from our GNT Seminole Electric. And as of right now, we have not currently exercised that option, but we're always on a daily basis, on a monthly basis, looking at when is the best fit and the best time to exercise that option. And that option is, the source of that option is renewable generation. And so it should not affect wildlife, and it is sustainable. And so the majority of the renewable generation is solar power. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you. This next question actually came from our District 4 meeting, and it says, how often does SECO trim their circuits? And I'm going to call on Wayne Pennington, our Vice President of Operations, to cover that question. Wayne?
Thank you, Mr. Wynn. So SECO Energy, we're currently on a 5-year trim cycle. That means that it takes 5 years to actually complete the trimming of all vegetation on our entire system. Good news is that our vegetation department here at SECO Energy is working really hard to reduce that trim cycle, possibly down to 4 years and maybe even 3 over the coming years.
Thank you, Mr. Wayne. Thank you, Wayne. That is a very important part of our maintenance schedule, and we appreciate the job that Wayne and his team are doing with that. Now, this next question comes from District 2, the District 2 meeting, and is it going to be a challenge for Seco to provide electricity for our growing areas. And I think I'll call on Ben Dawson again for that one, our Chief Operating Officer. Ben?
Thank you, Mr. Wynn. Yes, our team, our engineering and operations department, and really our whole cooperative team is up for that challenge, and we are meeting that challenge. We have plans in place that plans out for the next 4 years and even to the next 10 and 20 years. And we're constantly looking for opportunities to improve and meet that challenge. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. This question comes from the District 2 meeting, and it is Seco going to raise rates to match other utility companies? And I'll call on Ann Reynolds, our Vice President of Financial and Administrative Services, to cover that question. Ann, welcome to the podium.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Wynn. Thank you to District 2 for giving me the opportunity to engage and answer the question. So at Seco Energy, our goal is not to match other utilities' rates, but instead to ensure that our rates remain fair, competitive, and reflective of actual costs. So as a nonprofit cooperative, any adjustment to rates are carefully evaluated through a cost of service study. Those factors that are included in that study include fuel costs, wholesale power costs, infrastructure investments, and also overall system reliability. So we remain committed to ensuring and keeping rates stable as possible while continuing to deliver safe and dependable power to our members. Thank you.
Thank you, Ann. Thank you. This is the last one, unless more come in later. The last one is from District 6, the District 6 meeting. How do residents get area lighting for their neighborhood? What is the cost for members to have a light pole installed on their property? And I'll call on our Vice President of Engineering, Ralph Grant, for that question. Ralph?
Thank you, Mr. Wynn. Yeah, there's a couple of answers on the lighting for neighborhoods, right? So if you're in a neighborhood that is in a city, the city would be the requester. If you're in the county will be the requester. If you're in an HOA, the HOA may be involved with that. So there's a multi-layer process there for that. On the cost, it's going to depend on the size of the light, but typical yard light with a wood pole would be in the neighborhood of $13 to $15 a month. No charge to install it, just the monthly charge.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Ralph. Once again, I think that's all of the questions. Once again, I appreciate your time and attention this evening. On behalf of our entire executive leadership team, Seco's Board of Trustees, and our outstanding team of employees, we thank you, our valued members, for your continued support. Now, after the close of the meeting, the prize winners will be displayed on the screen, and you can also review the full list of winners on our website. At this time, I'm going to call on our board president, Gerald Anderson, our vice president, Morgan Hatfield, who will bring the meeting to a close. And I'll call on you, Mr. President, and Ms. Vice President.
Thank you, Mr. Wynn. Before we close, I have to praise the work that our people did putting all this meeting together. I'm going to give them all a round of applause. Phenomenal job. Appreciate it. Appreciate what all our trustees do. And with that, I'll call for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I make a motion.
Hatfield makes a motion. Do I have a second?
I will second it.
Mr. Wynn seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Good night.